Jyanilo Premadhana Karuna Prachu Jyanilo Premadhana Karuna Prachu Hino Prabhu Kota Gila Charya Thakur Hino Prabhu Kota Gila Charya Thakur Kahamora Swarup Rupam Kaha Sanatan Kahamora Swarup Rupa Kaha Sanatan Kahadasaragunata patita pavan Kahadasaragunata patita pavan Kahamora bhatta juga Kaha Kavira Kahamora Bhatta Juga Kaha Kavira Eke kale kota gela gorana tara Eka kale kota gela gorana taraj Pashane kutibo mata Anale pashibo Pashane kutibo mata anale pashibo Goranga gunera nidhi kotagile pabo Goranga gunera nidhi kotagile pabo Sesaba sangira sange je koila vilas Sesaba sangira sange je koila bilas Sesangana paya kande narodama das Sesangana paya kande narotama das Translation. He who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Srinivasacharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatt and Gopal Bhatt? And where is Krishna Das Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. So today we're addressing the disappearance of two great personalities, associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shivananda Sen and Swarup Damodar. So we'll read something about them. And also, this is a day where in Puri, the great festival taking place, Jagannath, the deities of Lord Jagannath, going outside to give mercy to everyone. So I'll also try to speak about that a little bit. I'm addressing a few topics, a few things today, so hopefully I'll have enough time to do so. And is there a Samadhi book? Thank you. So I'll read about Shivananda Sain first. Should be towards the end. Krishna. And if you like to add something, you can also use the mic if something comes to mind about these great personalities.
Who's first again?
Shivananda Sain first, and then Sorb Damdar. Just one moment, I'll find the passage here. Okay, Shivananda Sain, 143.
It's on the Sri Shivananda Sain.
Shivananda Sain. Okay, I found it. Every year, this is about Sri Shivananda Sain, every year, 1 month before Chaturmasya, 4 months period of the rainy season, Shivananda Sain would lead a party of 200 devotees from Bengal to Jagannath Puri to attend the annual Ratha Yatra festival. He would pay for everyone's food, tolls, ferries, and lodging. He personally arranged for their comfort. Shivananda Sain showed Vaishnava compassion for all living entities, be they man or beast. This is not a famous pastime. When a stray dog joined the party, Shivananda Sain fed the dog and even paid his boat fare. When the dog disappeared, one day Shivananda sent 200 men to search for that dog. Upon arriving in Puri, they saw Lord Chaitanya throwing coconut pulp to the dog. The dog became purified of all material contamination by eating the Mahaprasadam remnants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Not seeing the dog the next day, Shivananda Sain understood that the dog had attained liberation by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Observing Chaturmasya in Puri, Shivananda and the devotees would regularly bathe in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's blissful association. Shivananda used all his possessions in the service of Krishna and the Vaishnavas. His entire family and servants were ardent followers of Lord Gauranga. Like Kavi Karnapur, the son of Shivananda Sain, says in Gaura Ganadesh Dipika, Shivananda Sain is the embodiment of love of Sri Chaitanya Deva. And in Krishna Lila, he is Viragopi, Srimati Radharani's messenger. In one bhajan, Devakinandana Das glorifies him. I bow down to Shivananda Sain, who is full of divine love. His caste, life, and wealth are the 2 lotus feet of Sri Gaura Roy. His samadhi is in 64 samadhis area. So when this mentions about the yearly pilgrimage to Jagannath Puri from Bengal, all the devotees, one time when Shivananda Sain was taking care of so many devotees, hundreds of devotees, 200 men, and he was well aware of all the paths in Orissa, and he knew how to lead this big group of devotees. And also he was paying for different tolls, maintaining the road and things like that. And he would supply them with prasadam and everything. And one time he was checked by someone, by a toll collector. Devotees all passed, but he couldn't. He was stopped, And he was supposed to pay some taxes. Nityananda Prabhu became very angry and upset with him because it was taking a long time for him to go through, And he hadn't obtained a suitable residence, he hadn't eaten anything, so Nityananda Prabhu started actually calling him ill names. And he was very mad at Shivananda Sain. And then when Shivananda Sain finally took care of this collection, the taxes, he paid for it, what happened, Nityananda Prabhu kicked him in his body with his leg, with his foot. And although that incident happened, Shivananda Sain was an ideal Vaishnava, so he actually took it as a great mercy that Nityananda Prabhu's lotus fruit touched his body, and he was happy that it happened. And Nityananda Prabhu wanted to curse his 3 sons, his children, and his wife told him, but he said that let it all happen, I deserve this. This is my mischievous behavior. So whatever Nityananda Prabhu wants to do, I will accept it. So Shivananda Sain was very humble and completely devoted to Nityananda Prabhu and Lord Gauranga. Okay, so next is Swarup Damodar. 148. Shri Swarup Damodar Goswami. One of the closest associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Purushottamacharya Swarup, knew exactly the heart of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, glorifying him as the storehouse of all devotional mellows. Lord Chaitanya added the word Damodar to his name because he was so attached to Lord Chaitanya. So Damodar revealed to the world the innermost emotions of Sri Chaitanya's mood of Radharani feeling separation from Krishna. Sensing Lord Gauranga's moods, Swarup Damodar would perform kirtan to enhance the Lord's internal sentiments. So he was really understanding the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at different times and various circumstances. And he would enhance that mood by singing different Vaishnava songs or reciting different verses from Srimad Bhagavatam and various scriptures. He was very, very dear to Lord Chaitanya. To suit Lord Chaitanya's love pangs in Viraha Bhav, he would sing songs from Gita Govinda, Krishna Karanamrita, and the love poems of Chandidas and Vidyapati. Throughout the day and night, Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy stayed near Sri Chaitanya in order to nourish his pastimes. He's one of the 3.5 most intimate devotees of Lord Chaitanya: Ramananda Roy, Sikhi Mahiti, Madhavi Devi, and Swarup Damodar. Just as Lalita and Vishaka, Radharani's dearest gopis, Swarup Damodar, Vishaka Sakhi, and Ramananda Roy, Lalita Sakhi, are Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's most confidential associates. Swarup Damodar was the guardian of the Gaudiya devotees. So whenever a devotee misbehaved, Lord Gaurasundar would say, "Swarup, your Gaudiya did such and such." Swarup Damodar would personally check the grammatical and philosophical flaws in any newly written verse, song, or book before giving it to Lord Chaitanya for approval. So that's also another wonderful service of Swarup Damodar. He would check all the poems and anything written that was presented to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he did not want to mix any mellows, rasas. He wanted to present the pure poetry or writing to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He perfectly understood. Again, this is another confirmation that he perfectly understood the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His mood. Krishnadas Kaviraj used Swarup Damodar's karcha, or means diary, members of Sri Chaitanya's life, to compile the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Swarup Damodar Goswami also wrote Sangita Damodar, a book of music. His samadhi is in the 64th samadhis area. So these diaries were presented, especially in the later pastimes, because Swarup Damodar spent a lot of time closely with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his last period of staying in Jagannath Puri. And he would write in his diary, in his karcha. Murari Gupta and him, they provided quite a lot of, you could say, material for the writing of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Although Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he did not have, as far as I remember, personal association with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but based on the writings of these two great Vaishnavas, associates of Lord Gauranga, he was able to compile the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this is something about Swarup Damodar. He was an incarnation of Lalita Shakhi and personal secretary and constant companion of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now some interesting facts about Lord Jagannath that I was able to come across. And again, I encourage you to also add something if anything comes to mind. So Lord Jagannath is known for his feature of Mahabhav Prakash, or Krishna's manifestation of ecstasy while feeling separation from the residents of Raj, Vrindavan. And in Jagannath Ashtakam, the 3rd verse, nicely describes that on the shore of the great ocean, within a large palace atop the brilliant golden Nilachali hill, Lord Jagannath resides with his powerful brother Balabhadra and his sister Subhadra, who sits between them. May the Jagannath Swami, who bestows the opportunity for devotional service upon all godly souls, be the object of my vision. The worship of Lord Jagannath is performed in a very intimate mood of opulence, just like a king has so many servants, and they all looking to please him. They're looking to see to his needs. So also Lord Jagannath. We all know that the Lord Jagannath is worshipped by many people, and mostly those who are allowed to worship Lord Jagannath in the Puri, they come from a family lineage who have done worship of Jagannath for many generations. So there's a particular qualification for that's required. And in Puri, around 10,000 people are fed daily with a very powerful and famous Jagannath Prasad. And they have 9 kitchens and 752 wood-burning stoves. Quite a large production, cooking taking place. And for the building of the carts, it takes about 2 months to build the carts for the lordships of Lord Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra. And they have unique features, those carts. They differ in size and color and name. And the flag is also different. For example, Jagannath's cart is 50 feet with 16 wheels. And then we have the cart of Balabhadra, or Balaram, 47 feet and 14 wheels. And Subhadra is the smallest. This is about 43 feet, the height of the cart, and 12 wheels. And it's, like I mentioned, only once in a year that it happens that Lord Jagannath comes out on the streets to give them the mercy and opportunity for people to be engaged in devotional service, to be attracted for it, to give darshan. And another interesting thing about building the carts is that they use special wood. It's called daru. And daitas they have to be authorized and chosen by Lord Jagannath to collect that particular wood. And then they travel to Mangala Devi temple of Durga Devi, by feet. It's about 50 kilometers away from Jagannath Puri. And there, the deity reveals the sacred place, location of the wood for the carts. So that's a very mystical process like that. In the first Ratha Yatra in the United States, I was reading about that. Does anyone remember when it took place? Which year? And in which city? In the West? San Francisco. It was a very successful Ratha Yatra, although Srila Prabhupada wasn't present, but he was happy, and devotees also. They came to speak with Srila Prabhupada about how the Ratha Yatra, what happened. It was a grand success. People were dancing, prasadam was being distributed, different fruits were cut up for people, offered to the Lord, of course. And when Srila Prabhupada, once he saw a flatbed truck pulling different goods, or hauling different goods on the streets of San Francisco, and he called Shyama and he told him that in Jagannath Puri we have an annual festival of Lord Jagannath coming to give blessings to everyone like that. So, and then what he did, he showed him a sketch that he had made of the carts and the deities, and he told him that you should make this deities, make me a cart for Ratha Yatra. And you should arrange the procession down the main street in the city and place the deities in the back. And Srila Prabhupada was confident that this will attract many people. And that's what the devotees did soon after. They received a lot of help by the vendors in terms of flowers and fruits and vegetables. Were donated for that. Because Shyama Sundar and Jayananda, they would go and collect, and they would say something that this is for my spiritual master, for an annual festival, spiritual festival. So people will be generous in their donation. And eventually that procession took place on Frederick Street, although devotees wanted to go to the Golden State, the Golden Park, what is it called? The Golden State, Golden Gate Bridge Park. But it didn't happen. The city didn't allow that. But anyhow, the Ratha Yatra was very blissful. Recently, I was at the park, and I met 3 people from Europe, one of them from Denmark, then from Belgium, and from Netherlands. And they all came together for a convention in Chula Vista. There was a health and wellness convention related to water, pure water. They were organized a big convention in a famous resort in Chula Vista. You probably know. It's called Gaylord, the resort. So I met these three people, and they were very enthusiastic, especially Teresa from Denmark. And she took books from me, and she chanted Maha Mantra, and it left an impression on her. She was very happy, And then what happened, they came back to me a little bit later, and they told me that actually we're here to attend this convention. So there'll be a lot of like-minded people. You'll find a lot of people who are interested in this spiritual books. So maybe you can also come, And they invited me, and I thought for a moment, and I figured, yeah, maybe I can do that. I can come, bring my books, set up a table. So I invited Bhakti Chat to come with me, and we went a few days after to that convention. At first we stopped to check out the area, by the entrance, and Chad came in to see what's taking place, how possible it is for us to set up a table. And eventually I brought my books there, and the first person that I met was someone from India. There was a couple, and they told me that their parents just recently, a couple of years ago, moved to Raj, and they would go on parikram often, invite them. So they were quite Krishna conscious. They supported me and invited me to stay. They helped me out. They said, you can stay, because just to see what's happening. It's a convention. We have no obligation to be there. We're not authorized to be there. So we're just coming in with our books, and right in the front we're setting up a table. People are just streaming through. So anyway, I
outside the front doors?
No, inside, yeah, just. Exactly, right inside the front doors. So that was very bold of us to do that. But anyway, I came in, and the first person I met, this people from Raj. And then I set up a table, and then the second person I met, devotees from New Jersey, initiated, Mataji's initiated. And that person, why I bring it up, is the person who, the Prabhu, the husband, his name was Jagannath. So he stayed with me for some time, maybe an hour or so, and he distributed books with me. He was distributing books with me. We're getting some books out, And then I see Teresa. She's coming over to the table, and she's so happy to see me because, she had some doubts. Maybe I wouldn't come, but we showed up, so she's very happy. And she looks in my boxes that I brought with me, and she sees a couple of books that I didn't give her that day. And she says, I'll come back to give you a donation. I'll come back a little later. And then Chad, I call him and I tell him that maybe you can bring a Bhagavatam set from the car, and we'll introduce a Srimad Bhagavatam set to Teresa, And that's what Chad Prabhu went and did. He brought a set. And Teresa comes back, she sees the set, and I introduce her to the Bhagavatam set. She's really, really excited to see it, I'm showing her one of the cantos, the 12 cantos, because it was open. And she's happy, she's given a donation. And then I say, well, this comes along with more books, this 18-volume set. So you see this right here, this box, this huge box, it's all for you. Please take it. And she was astonished, but nevertheless, she said, I'll take it. I'll keep the whole set. And I asked her, how are you going to bring it to Denmark? Because she's supposed to leave in a week or so. And she said, I don't care. Somehow I'll figure it out. I'll bring it to Denmark. And what she did, she bought some big bags, plastic bags, big carrying bags, and she put all the cantos inside. And then she remembered one final thing. She remembered the mantra, and when she wanted to chant the Maha Mantra with us. And at that time, we were actually stopped by some authorities. We were supposed to wrap up and go. Someone saw us, and they told us, "You can't be here. You're not authorized to be here." That's anyway. So we went outside. We went by the car, and And Teresa, she followed us, you know. She followed us. We took Bhagavatam set together, and she followed us, and then she chanted the Maha Mantra with us, because she wanted to finish off on that note, you know, chanting Hare Krishna together. So that was a really wonderful a story that took place just a couple of days ago with the distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam set. And it nicely reminded me of the Lord Jagannath, because the Prabhu from New Jersey, his name was Jagannath. So I thought I'd bring it up and mention that to you. But this is something about these 3 events, and we have a little time to also speak on Srimad Bhagavatam at this point, maybe 10 minutes. Okay, Shivananda Sen ki jai, Swarup Damodar ki jai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai, Shri Purushottam Kshetra ki jai. So we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, starting a new chapter, chapter 16. It's called Payavrata. The vrata, the vow of Payavrata means milk, Paya means milk. Before I start reading the summary, I'll say, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is chapter 16, executing the Payavrata process of worship. This is a small overview of the chapter. Skip the introduction. I'm reading introduction for the chapter. I'm starting on the first text, yeah. As described in this chapter, because Aditi, the mother of demigods, was very afflicted, her husband Kaśyapa Muni told her how to observe vows and austerities for the benefit of her sons. Since the demigods were not visible in the heavenly kingdom, their mother Aditi, because of separation from them, was very much aggrieved. One day, after many, many years, the great sage Kaśyapa emerged from a trance of meditation and returned to his ashram. He saw that the ashram was no longer beautiful and that his wife was very morose. Everywhere in the ashram, he saw signs of lamentation. The great sage therefore inquired from his wife about the well-being of the ashram and asked her why she looked so morose. After Aditi informed Kaśyapa Muni about the ashram's well-being, she told him that she was lamenting for the absence of her sons. She then requested him to tell her how sons could return and reoccupy their positions. She wanted all good fortune for her sons. Moved by Aditi's request, Kaśyapa Muni instructed her in the philosophy of self-realization, the difference between matter and spirit, and how to be unaffected by material loss. But when he saw that Aditi was not satisfied even after he had given these instructions, he advised her to worship Vasudeva Janardhan. He assured her that only Lord Vasudeva could satisfy her and fulfill all her desires. When Aditi then expressed her desire to worship Lord Vasudeva, Prajapati Kaśyapa told her about a process of worship known as Payavrata, which is executed in 12 days. Lord Brahma had instructed him how to satisfy Lord Krishna by this process, and thus he advised his wife to observe this vow and its regulative principles. So this is the description of the 16th chapter, and now we'll read the 5 texts which are here in the beginning of this chapter. I won't read the Sanskrit, just the English translation, text number 1, 2, 3, 4, and read the Sanskrit on 5. Shukadeva Goswami said, O king, when Aditi's sons, the demigods, had thus disappeared from heaven and the demons had occupied their places, Aditi began lamenting as if she had no protector. 2. After many, many days, the great powerful sage Kaśyapa Muni arose from a trance of meditation and returned home to see the ashram of Aditi neither jubilant nor festive. O best of the Kurus, when Kaśyapa Muni had been properly received and welcomed, he took his seat and then spoke as follows to his wife Aditi, who was very morose. Text number 4. O most gentle one, I wonder whether anything inauspicious has now taken place in regard to religious principles, the brahmanas or the people in general who are subject to the whims of death. Perfect. There are prescribed duties for all the inhabitants of this material world, especially for the brahmanas, but also for the people in general who are subject to the whims of death. Kaśyapa Muni wondered whether the regulative principles which are meant for the well-being of everyone had been disobeyed. He accordingly continued his inquiries for 7 verses. For 7 verses he will inquire about why Aditi is feeling morose, what happened. And this is text number 5. He begins to speak. I'll just read the Sanskrit and translation. Api va kushalam kinchit greshu griha medini dharmasya artasya kamasya yatra yoga hi yoginam. I'll skip the synonyms now. We don't have so much time. Translation and purport. O my wife, who are very much attached to household life, if the principles of religion, economic development, and satisfaction of the senses are properly followed in household life, one's activities are as good as those of a transcendentalist. I wonder whether there have been any discrepancies in following these principles. And the purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, Aditi has been addressed by her husband Kaśyapa Muni as Griha Medini, which means one who is satisfied in household life for sense gratification. Generally, those who are in household life pursue sense gratification in the field of activities performed for material results. Such Griha Medis have only one aim in life, sense gratification. Therefore it is said, Yam matonadi Griha Medi sukham hitucham. The householder's life is based on sense gratification, and therefore the happiness derived from it is very meager. Nonetheless, the Vedic process is so comprehensive that even in the householder life, one can adjust his activities according to the regulative principles of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. One's aim should be to achieve liberation, but because one cannot at once give up sense gratification, in the Shastras there are injunctions prescribing how to follow the principles of religion, economic development, and sense gratification. As explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, Dharmasya hya pavargyasya nartartaya pakalpate. All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Those who are in household life should not think that religion is meant to improve the process of the householder's sense gratification. Household life is also meant for advancement in spiritual understanding, by which one can ultimately gain liberation from the material clutches. One should remain in household life with the aim of understanding the ultimate goal of life, tattva jigyasa. Then household life is as good as the life of a yogi. Kaśyapa Muni therefore inquired from his wife whether the principles of religion, economic development, and sense gratification were being properly followed in terms of the śāstric injunctions. As soon as one deviates from the injunctions of the Shastra, the purpose of household life is immediately lost in confusion. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vancha Kalpatrubhishcha Kripa Sindhabe Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sri Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So unfortunately I don't have so much time to cover this part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, but I'll say something. I just want to say that Bali Maharaj, he had, as we remember earlier, he was in this fight with the Suras, and he was actually devastated, he was killed. And then by the mercy of Shukracharya, he regained his life, and then he started serving Shukracharya, and therefore he obtained certain powers which allowed him to conquer the heavenly planets. And when he conquered the heavenly planets, he took the position of Indra. And although he wasn't qualified, spiritually speaking, or in any sense he wasn't qualified, materially or spiritually, because he didn't develop that subtlety that is required for the heavenly planets, life on the heavenly planets. So he took it by force. And then he performed a yagya, Ashwamedha yagya, this horse sacrifice. And he did that to maintain his position, because one thing is to create, another thing is to maintain. We might create something. It's much easier to create something, but to maintain, much more difficult. We can create a program, or we can create a particular program and do it and be enthusiastic to do so, but to maintain that steadily is very difficult, especially if you look at the longer run. It requires so much of our attention to maintain a particular program. Even to maintain anything like a vehicle or any object is difficult, you know. So therefore, that's why he performed that yajna. And now we're seeing here that in life of Aditi, she's feeling morose because her children, her dear children in the heavenly planets, they are actually, including Indra, they were overthrown, and she feels unhappy. She laments. She doesn't like that. So in this pastime, we learn, this Parivrata pastime, is that Kaśyapa Muni will come and instruct Aditi how to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And one thing that I thought about that reminded me is that Aditi, she's in the category of someone who is in distress, and she's approaching the Lord with the material desire, you can say, to relieve her sons. But because she's approaching the Lord, generally speaking, she's approaching the Lord on the instructions of Kaśyapa Muni, that desire, as we know, can be purified. And that's exactly what will happen in this pastime. What we'll see is that one of her children would be Vamanadev, who will help in regaining or rebalancing the life in the heavenly planets. So this is something about the general understanding of this pastime. It's a wonderful pastime. And also Kaśyapa Muni, he will say that I am instructing you. I've learned this science of vrata from my spiritual master. And his spiritual master was Lord Brahma. So this is also another very interesting point about how the parampara is followed. You know, you don't just speculate on a particular instruction. You give as you've heard. You preserve the message. Just like in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna begins to instruct Arjuna, but he's waiting for him to accept him as a spiritual master. Karpanya doshapahata svabhava, Arjuna says to him, I'm ready to hear from you now. And in the Bhagavatam, let me see, the 11th canto, chapter 14, text 20, this is Krishna speaking Uddhava Gita to Arjuna. Nasadyati, Uddhava, Krishna speaking to Uddhava. Nasadyati mam yogo, nasankyam dharma Uddhava. He says, Nasvadyas tapastyago. He says, Yuta bhaktir mamorjita. This orjita means strongly developed. So when we develop the affection for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we approach Him in the mood of bhakti, not in the mood of, as mentioned in this text, sankyam, dharma, svadhyaya, tapa, or tyago, not in the mood of analytical philosophy, sankhya, or dharma, or pious activities, or svadhyaya, Vedic study. And you have tapa, austerity, or tyago, renunciation. This will not guarantee the mercy, the complete mercy of the Lord. Because if we have not developed bhakti, the Lord is not entirely pleased. But in this text we see how by yatha bhaktir mamojita, Uddhava explains, by unalloyed devotion rendered by devotees, it brings the Lord under complete control. So this is a very interesting verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the example that is given in the commentaries is the pastime of Aghasura, when he appeared in Vraj, and all the cowherd boys, they actually had such an unflinching faith in the Lord that when Aghasura swallowed Krishna, they followed after him. They did not hesitate to do so because of that yatha bhaktir mamorjita. Yes.
No, he came in together. They just walked in. They helped Krishna save us. They walked in, they were killed, swallowed, and then followed going back to life.
And is the mic too?
Can you repeat that in the mic, please?
Yeah, it was just a little bit. You had passed them a little wrong. They saw that this was, it wasn't a mountain of anything. It was actually a big snake, And then they said, "Well, we don't have any problem. We can go right into the snake, and if
before Krishna, before
Krishna will come."
Yes. This is a little mistake on my part. So, but the point that I was trying to make is that they were completely dependent on Krishna. They didn't hesitate to do so. They were very much surrendered to the will of the Lord, to Krishna. They were confident in the friendship of the Lord. And that gigantic mouth that appeared as a mountain, they didn't hesitate to enter into it. Because they knew that they're protected by Krishna. So no matter what happens, even if they enter, even something dangerous will happen, they are protected by Krishna, so what is there to fear? So that's the idea. And we should also develop that mood of dependence and protection towards Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Kaśyapa Muni is instructing based on what he has heard from Lord Brahma. Another thing I'll mention, the last thing I'll conclude on that, is it's referring to this, Srila Prabhupada is referring to the Srimad Bhagavatam, the second chapter of the first canto. He's quoting a text number 9, which mentions that all occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. So when the big tendency is that when we do pious activities, and when we come to worship the Lord, we expect to enjoy the fruit. And although it's a pious activity, and although it's considered that if you continue doing so, eventually might purify you. But in the Vaishnava understanding, and according to the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, this is not the highest type of activity. In the previous verse, text number 8, Nad padayati tiratim shama evi kevalam, it is explained that if you do what is obliged by your swadharma, it's useless if it doesn't help you develop love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the solution brought up in the next text number 10, Kamasinindriya pratir, do not use your senses, do not desire just mere sense gratification. Labo jiveta yavata, jivasya tattva jigyasa, preserve your life, be healthy, and inquire of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jivasya, the life of a jiva, of living beings, is meant for tattva jigyasa. Natto yasceha karma bhi. Nothing else should be the goal of one's work. So this this is being instructed to us. And I want to say that Srila Prabhupada, in one of the purports, he explained that Srimad Bhagavatam is samhita, Paramahamsa Samhita. So it's meant for the highest class of human beings. And it's meant for those people, for those devotees who are free from envy, the Paramahamsas. And in all the stages, especially in the stages of brahmachari and householder, we might see that the envy is still present there in the human being. So, but by engaging in hearing the pastimes of the Lord together, this envy can be purified, it can go away. Especially if we consciously cultivate that very famous verse in the śāstric, if we consciously cultivate these qualities of Trinada Pisunicinata Ravasa Hishnana. So if we consciously try to notice within ourselves how to be more humble and work, place ourselves in circumstances where we can be more humble. Like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he explained that simply if we surrender to the Holy Name, if we have affection towards the Holy Name will give us understanding of all the perfections will be revealed to us in that wonderful practice of chanting, japa, kirtan. So therefore there's no other way for us in this age of Kali but to study Srimad Bhagavatam and chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra attentively. And in this way, we can amount to something and please Krishna. So I apologize if this class was a little all over the place because there's a lot of things to cover, and I really don't feel that I've completed the task so nicely, especially, Srimad Bhagavatam. There's so much in the commentaries that we can say, but nonetheless, this is something I had time for, and I mentioned about the disappearances of Shivananda Sen, Swarup Damodar, some interesting facts about Jagannath Ratha Yatra, and a little bit about this pastime of Kaśyapa Muni entering into the ashram and seeing Aditi being morose, why she's feeling like that, and further it will be explained more. And different signs that Kaśyapa Muni was trying to notice. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe you didn't worship the brahmanas, maybe you didn't treat the guest properly. So what are the reasons? And of course we'll see the reasons for that lamentation is that Aditi's sons were overthrown by Bali Maharaj. So thank you for your attention. Would you like to add anything or maybe ask a question? And thank you for that correction, the Aghasura pastime. I misspoke.
Hare Krishna, you did a nice job. So, you mentioned briefly that Bali wasn't subtle enough to take the position of Indra. What did you mean by it wasn't subtle enough?
Yes. For example, there is a gross way to enjoy something. We can enjoy it in a gross way, but there's also a way to enjoy it more subtly. Like mundane example would be the taste for music. Some people they like when the hardcore rock bands perform, and they just loudly bang, instruments, and it's so loud. But in a subtle way, you enjoy classical music. So you have a different inclination, you have a different interest, your senses are tuned in a different way. So similarly, to be qualified to enter in the heavenly abode, you have to develop certain qualities. You have to tune in your senses in a more subtle way, so you can experience that actual pleasure in the heavenly planets. But until you develop that, you don't get to to go there to this heavenly planets. So that's the understanding. I hope that example makes sense. Anything else from the audience today? Okay, anything from online audience today, from Zoom? Okay, nothing from Zoom. Again, thank you for your attention. We'll continue here in Srimad Bhagavatam tomorrow and day after. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.